You're watching Smart Means Business, and we'll be back from the break. Now, this hour, with a minute past 8 o'clock, we kick it off with our business tip of the day. And the business tip says, don't limit yourself. Many people limit themselves to what they think they can do. You can go as far as your mind lets you. What you believe, remember, you can achieve. Don't limit yourself. Many people limit themselves to what they think they can do. You can go as far as your mind lets you. What you believe, remember that you can achieve. This is a tip coming in this early morning. That never limit yourself. As many people continue to limit themselves to what they think they can do. Well, you can do lots of things, and remember what your mind lets you think, or the kind of mindset you have limits you. But if you put your mind onto something bigger, you can still achieve it. Now, let's get more motivation and inspiration from our business quote this morning. And the business quote is coming in from Ralph Nader, who says the function of leadership is to produce more leaders, not more followers. The function of leadership is to produce more leaders, not more followers. And so the same applies to the function of any business person, is to create more business-minded people more than more employees. If I am to put it in that way, create more people who are coming in to tap into those bigger spaces, less than the people who may not be able to at least tap into the rest. So the function of leadership is to at least create more leaders, not followers. That way you will be able to at least give people all that matters when it comes to your leadership qualities, and as well as being referred to as a world-class leader or an intentional leader who is an inspiration or a driver of different forces in that way. Now, besides that, let's talk more regarding passports in the world. Now, this particular one is taking us to one highlight regarding the Henley and Partners Agency, which released an annual report of the world's most powerful passports. And in this particular update, we are taking a look at Africa's top 10 passports, or countries with the top 10 ranked passports. One will still understand, one will still ask, where does this all come from? For a passport is actually, when you look at the ranking of a passport, is based on proportionally the data that is collected from the international air transport. And the index's scoring system was developed to give users a nuanced and practical and reliable insight into the power of their passport. Now, each passport is based on the total number of destinations its holder can access without a visa. And when you look at this particular agency, the Henleys and Partner Agency released its annual report of the world's most popular passports. And in the ranking is still dominated by Asian countries. If you're to look at that, with Japan having the most powerful passport, Singapore coming in with Japan and Singapore in first place, and then South Korea coming in at second. Singapore and South Korea actually second are tied in regards to that particular one with the passport at the end of the day. So this particular one, as I was actually breaking down for you, that when you look at the ranking, it is actually based on data from the International Air Transport Association. And then furthermore, this is actually given in a situation where a visa is required, or where the passport holder must apply for a government-approved electronic visa prior to the departure. A score of 0 is assigned. The same applies if he needs to obtain a pre-departure or approval on his arrival at the end of the day. So now let's have a list of the most powerful passports within Africa in that particular perspective, for you to at least see how or where your country stands and which countries have the most powerful. And in the ranking, when it comes to the rankings here in the world, you get to realize that Seychelles, that is ranking in Africa. It is ranked first in Africa, and in the world it's actually ranking number 29. Now Mauritius ranks second, 34th in the world. South Africa ranks third in Africa, and ranks apparently, when you look at South Africa, ranks 53rd. That is, if you're to look at the space to do with the African, rather with the world ranking. Now Botswana ranks 4th. If you are to look at the list of most 10 powerful passports in Africa, Botswana ranks 4th and 63rd in the world. Namibia ranks 5th, 67th in the world. Lesotho ranks 6th and then 69th in the world. Eswatini 7th, 71st in the world. Malawi 8th, 72nd in the world. And then in the East African community, being represented by Kenya, that ranks 9th and being ranked 73rd in the world, if you are to look at that. And then Tanzania is ranking 10th in Africa, and then also being ranked 74th in the world. And this is some of the key issues when it comes to the southern part of Africa being represented so amicably well at the end of the day. Now, this is a ranking that is actually dominated by the Asian countries, like I did mention. South Korea coming in second, Seychelles of Africa is at least the better, is actually the better country in Africa in regards to the rankings, being ranked at 29th with 153 points when you look at that. And this is the Henley and Partners Agency released list on regards to the most powerful passports as of January 10th. Now let's have more of the other details regarding Uganda and its position on the passports issue. Now when you look at that, the Ugandan passport is ranked 14th in Africa and 78th in the world rankings. And when you look at the West African countries, these ones have more or less than the same value, with only Burkina Faso ranking ahead of these countries, and its ranking is 86th in the world as well as that. So one may ask, how is this particular ranking based on? Now each passport is scored based on the total number of destinations each holder can access without a visa. So these rankings go back to which country. One may ask, how do they rate a passport being powerful and all that? So it goes back to the total number of destinations. For example, if someone can come into a country like Uganda, how many destinations can they move, or how many different sites can they visit without the need of a visa? So each passport is scored based on the total number of destinations its holder can access without a visa. So for each travel destinations, if no visa is required, a score of 1 is assigned to that passport. This also applies if passport holders can obtain a visa on arrival, a visit permit, or an electronic travel authorization, that is the ETA, on entry into that particular destination. So that is more when it comes to the power of passports and the most powerful passports within the African continent. I did mention that Japan's passport is being ranked as the most powerful, followed by South Korea in there. Now, besides that, let's get more updates this morning, and our second update is actually, our third update rather, is actually rotating around the inquiries about suspended accounts and investments of the NSSF. And there is a lot of questions regarding the National Social Security Fund, and this and more is actually what happened yesterday as the NSSF board met with the select committee, including the former managing director and the acting managing director, that is Patrick Ayota, with more of the answers to these queries this particular morning.
Instead of the suspense account, we'll begin by taking the suspense account basically arises out of the following situations. Recovery of audited arrears from members that are no longer employed with the audited company at the time of remittance and cannot be immediately traced for registration purposes. Collection of contribution for new employees without national identification numbers, which are prerequisite for registration with the NSSF. We now have 52 billion shillings in what we call the suspense account as of the 6th of February 2023, broken down basically in two parts. We have 16 billion in current member suspense, And we have what we call 36 billion shillings in historical suspense. We have cleared records worth 9 billion from the suspense account for the period July 2022 to Feb 2023. We have in place initiatives to mitigate the growth of suspense, including the e-collection portal, which makes it impossible for employers to remit without complete employee information. Publication of suspense in different media platforms, as well as field engagements aimed at tracing members on the suspense account. We have also fully integrated with NIRA to enable registration of members, and this has significantly reduced the amount of incoming suspense. The bulk of the suspense relates to historical periods. Once all efforts to clear suspense are exhausted, we will publish all pending suspense and have it moved to the reserves as per provision of the NSF Act. There is a process for clearing of funds from the suspense account. Upon registration of members whose funds are on suspense account, the contributions are transferred to the member's account. There are robust control to ensure that the rule of maker-checker is followed in the process of suspense management. How are the decisions for penalty waivers made? The NSF Act gives the managing directors powers to waive a penalty, and this has been exercised on several employers. Following an audit of an employer, the fund makes a demand for arrears, interest therein, and penalty. Upon settlement of the arrears and interest, employers are free to apply for waiver of penalty, and if they meet the eligibility criteria, that's payment of interest and principal in full, they are either granted full or partial waiver of the penalty. Do balances in suspense account receive interest? Yes. The money in suspense account is part of the total balance upon which the fund declares interest. And once a member on suspense is traced and registered, all contributions and accrued interest are credited to the member's account. The soccer fraud case, what steps have been taken to recover this money? The staff concerned was subject to a disciplinary process leading to their exiting the fund. The fund filed a complaint with the police to recover the affected funds. Mr. Soccer has since been tried in the anti-corruption court, and the ruling is awaited. We have also measures put in place to improve the controls. In fact, there's an internal audit report that we have submitted to the committee regarding this case. Breakdown of members with differences in balances. About 2.2% of total membership, that's 34,000 members, have balances of 100 million shillings and over. Now, this 2.2% of members hold 7.9 trillion shillings in balances, which constitutes about 47.3% of the total member fund. About 2.4% of total membership, that's 36,000 members, have balances of between 50 to 99 million shillings, and their combined balance is 2.5 trillion shillings, representing 15.2% of total member funds. About 95% of the members, that's 1.4 million members, have balances of less than 50 million shillings, and the combined balance is 6.2 trillion shillings, representing 37.4% of total member fund. What's interesting to note is out of the 1.4 million members who have balances of less than 50 million shillings, 1.2, almost 1.3 million members, which is 83.4%, have balances of less than 10 million shillings, and they have combined balance of 2.3 trillion shillings, which is 13.7% of the total member funds. Total number of investments made and how many lost to values in respect to real estate. We have 210 total investments that have been made, broken down as follows: 142 government bonds, 4 fixed deposits at this point in time, 1 corporate bond, 1 loan, 27 listed equities, 4 private equity investments, 1 private equity fund, and 30 pieces of land / project / properties. Only 1 real estate actually lost to value. This is the West Nile Golf Club that was acquired before 2010. And at this point in time, we are putting in effort to recover those monies. It's important for the committee to note that the fund takes a portfolio view of its investments. The portfolio view enables the fund to monitor the performance of the investment on an overall basis. The fact that the fund has grown consistently over the years proves that there have been higher performing assets than lower performing assets within the investment portfolio.
Now, meanwhile, as of yesterday, the select committee that is investigating on the mismanagement of funds at the NSSF apparently got to land at 1.8 billion budget, which was previously allocated for corporate social responsibility activities. The CRS was actually that apparently they got to realize that there was 1.8 billion budget which was previously allocated for a corporate social responsibility, and the former directing manager that is managing director Richard Biarogaba admitted this particular budget request came from the NSSF board following a previous meeting, and the request was a lower figure, but they ended up pushing it to the figure of 1.8 billion. So Biarogaba gave a breakdown of which individuals were allocated specific amounts of money. In his breakdown, the gender minister Betty Amongi was allocated with 250 million shillings. That is with in regards to the corporate social responsibility. So she was allocated 250 million shillings. Board chairman Peter Chimbowa was allocated 250 million shillings. The other board members that were allocated 500 million shillings, according to Richard Biarogaba. So he also noted that NOTU was allocated 400 million shillings, and COF2 was allocated 400 million shillings, which brings it to 1.8 billion. When you look at the Central Organization of Free Trade Unions, that is COF2, which worked out with 400 million. The other is the National Organization of Trade Unions, NOTU, all workers' unions, if you're to try to understand the entire picture. Now, according to the same revelation, a staff from NSSF who only introduced herself as Linda apparently said that for the 10 months she has worked at the fund, she has never seen any accountability for the corporate social responsibility activity. So when you look at this, there is also a ray of hope, as according to the former NSSF managing director Richard Biarogaba, the company has become profitable, and the company has reinstituted the loan on its books, and the company is now in position to begin paying back the loan. Of course, they would have to pay it at an interest rate which has been agreed, and to the fund members, the assurance to them is that the money will be recovered. That is according to the former managing director. But also, on the other hand, the IGG is set to complete NSSF investigations in 2 months, according to the new report regarding the Inspector General of Government, Betty Kamia, who said the investigations into the alleged mismanagement of National Social Security Fund are going on smoothly, and the probe will be completed in 2 months. She was addressing a news conference at her office in Kampala and assured the public that everybody everybody involved would be having a fair hearing from this same matter. So, and she furthermore denied reports that they are being used as an institution to block former NSSF Richard Biarogaba from getting back to office. She said that they had given the case special attention, notwithstanding the financial constraints. She further noted that they had agreed with the Minister of Gender, Labour and Social Development, Betty Amongi, who was among the complainants in the NSSF case, that they would put the resources at their disposal to a good job. But also, the former managing director is still under the spot over the 20 billion loan to Uganda Clays. This is another twist still. According to Mr. Richard Biarogaba, NSSF had acquired up to 32% shares in Uganda Clays, and there was need to save it from collapsing at the time. So apparently, this particular one, this loan was extended to Uganda Clays Limited in 2010. It was 11 billion, and the 11 billion loan, which has since accrued to over 20 billion with interest, is part of the 70 billion loan the fund extended to Uganda Clays and the Housing Finance Bank. Apparently, when you look at the fact that the fund dispersed the loan to Uganda Clays at 15% interest, when you look at this, Uganda Clays at the time was making a lot of losses for the twist in here. That was around 2010, and NSSF came in as a bailout in 2011. And also, quoting the Auditor General's management report for NSSF, the chair of the committee, that is Honorable Mwine Mpaka, noted that the unsecured loan to Uganda Clays was granted on December 29th, 2010, and it was supposed to be served within a period of 96 months in equal monthly installments, commencing after a grace period of 2 good years. So there is also an issue to do with the conflict of interest here, whereby the legislator cited conflict of interest, saying that by the time the loan was extended to Uganda Clays, that is 11 billion, which was extended to Uganda Clays, and it has actually grown to 20 billion due to the 15% interest that was added to it. According to the legislators, this is going to be a conflict of interest depending on how it is responded to. As most of the legislators have reminded that the same chairperson of the audit committee of Uganda Clays was also appointed on the 29th of October, the very year. So the unsecured loan was given to Uganda Clays. It has also come to the attention that this loan was apparently written off. So the issue is, why then write off the money that belongs to savers? That is according to what some of the legislators were asking Richard Byarugaba, who is under the spotlight still furthermore in regards to the issue of the 20 billion loan to Uganda Clays. The initial loan was 11 billion, but because of the 15% increase, it kept on growing to 20 billion Ugandan shillings with time. And as we're heading into the break, remember to also have a say in Uganda's investment space by investing in government bonds and securities with Zabo. Zabo is a platform by Altex East Africa, and if you want to invest, it should not be a hassle for you. So if you have you have limited money, that is, if you have less money, you can still invest with just a minimum of 15,000 Ugandan shillings. Star 292 hash is the USSD code you can use. Remember, Zabo only needs you to have an account with them by registering with your national identification number, and after registration, you'll be able to grow your investments with Zabo. The markets on the platform open at 8:15 a.m. and their closing time is 3:15 p.m. Though, on the other hand, they are fully closed during the weekends and on public holidays, but you can still grow your investments with Zabo. Star 292 hash. Zabo, my money, my future, Altex East Africa, do something new. And what you can do today is to grow your investments with Zabo. After the break, I will be returning with sports business and the latest from the world of entertainment with Barija Andrew this morning. Stick around.